Yeah, the mission there is to help entrepreneurs burn bright and not burn out.
Mm.
And so I run into so many people now that I'm, embrace the entrepreneur in me. So many people that are running, go, go, go. And there's a bunch of hot topics right now. People wanting flow state, people wanting, like what you're saying, constant, like perpetual growth. The concept that failure is our job as entrepreneurs. But along with that, we're also humans with emotions, with connections, with genealogy, and we need to embrace that. And so everything we do is to get people to embrace who they are at their authentic core.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high performance habits, best in class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat, hit subscribe, and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. In the Champions Corner today, we have a real treat. Chris Schwagerl joins us to explore so many great aspects of generating cash flow, finding ways to follow your passion, and how to harness your mind, mindset, and psyche to achieve peak performance. Chris went from being a somewhat depressed victim living on a couch to generating cash flow from real estate, to helping others as a social worker, to now pursuing his mission of helping entrepreneurs unlock their potential and truly enjoy all the benefits of being a business owner. I love Chris's mission to help 1 million essential workers find the thrill of creating passive income, as well as his unique take on getting therapy to the many stressed and fatigued entrepreneurs out there. You're absolutely going to love this episode. So without further ado, let's get right into the Champions Corner with Chris Schwagerl. All right, Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Good to see you, Mike. Good to see you, Lydia.
You bet.
Great
yeah,
to see
it's good
you.
to see you again. So today in the Champions Corner, we want to discuss all things mindset, just best practices, a little bit about the work you're doing, which is right up that line. And in fact, why don't we just start off with your background and an overview of what got you to where you are today, and then we'll roll from there.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, we can start off when I was age 32 and I got my first bank account. So that's probably where it starts. So before then, I was like a skateboard guy,
Yeah.
total type B, didn't really have any ambition. I was working with youth who were on probation, and I was the perfect guy for that, like just hanging out, going with the flow, take them camping. I got paid to get them back into school and all that kind of stuff, really related to them.
And this was as a social worker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, all social workers have a part-time job. So I was also bartending at a few places to make ends meet and living in a friend's basement, like not even like a bedroom, like a den, like no windows, So I think we're past statute of limitations, but it was probably illegal. And I remember who I was dating at the time just was blown away that I didn't have a bank account. Like, she was responsible. We're clearly not together anymore because, she is too good for me. She had a bank account before age 30. And so anyway, that got me on the path of, okay, how do I do this like adult life thing? I knew a bunch of mental health stuff and I was very good at that. And I felt very comfortable in that world. It also didn't pay anything. Like at that time, I was probably making $13 an hour.
Yeah. Did you already have your degrees at that point?
I mean, I had a master's degree.
Right.
So I'm in a spot where my entire life, I wanted to make an impact positively in the community. And this is how I chose to do that. But there's kind of like a dark side to this point in my life too, where a lot of my friends were going on a trip to Costa Rica, and I was complaining because I had to work, the weekends to make ends meet.
Hmm.
And so I'm thinking, why are you guys engineers, architects? I'm helping the community and talking about pay inequity. And then finally, one of my friends' wives said, why don't you do something about it? And to be honest, to that point, I never knew you could. I grew up, both my parents grew up on farms. So our philosophy was you get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
Hmm.
Suddenly now I'm throwing passive aggressive fits, and I'm glad I did. In fact, I just was hanging out with Eric and Michelle, my friends, from this story the other night, and we were reflecting on that. It was funny. But I asked, what do I do? And she said, I don't know. So I asked someone, and I got Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then a month later, got a savings account. 6 months later, met a mortgage originator. And then a few months after that, I bought a duplex. And then I went from living in a friend's basement den, paying $250 a month, to getting paid $150 a month to have my own place. And I want to say that it was the money that I really liked, but it was the availability of members of the opposite sex who were willing to talk to a 32-year-old dude now with a bank account and a house,
Yeah.
But I was hooked. So I, around that time, met my wife. We bought another duplex. And then we, wanted to get, like most people house hack, eventually you want to get out of that. So we bought our own single family house. We had learned a lot of stuff by then. So the house I'm in now is essentially a free house because we did it with a construction loan. And then our mortgage on it now is less than what we're collecting in rent at the last place. So we rent it out. And we've just kind of like leveled up from there. And now we're building some places down in a couple of markets in Florida, and things are going pretty good there. And I'm happy to say, like, somehow I created wealth on a social work wage. And
Yeah.
so I'm happy to spread that message now to everybody.
That's great. Yeah. Called to give back. So rewinding a little bit, what called you into, I think your undergraduate is in psychology and then a master's in social work. Kind of what called you into that field? Did you have that in your family, or did you just through pure interest, like I think most of us, as we get a major in a university? But
Yeah, I didn't have it in my family. My family is farmers. And I think some of that maybe because with the farm mentality, it's, you're you helpful.
mm-hmm.
If you can help, you do, no matter what.
Right.
And you just work until the job's done. And there's this kind of community feeling to it. So some of that for sure in the core values there, but no one in my family who's studying psychology or anything like that. I just always was interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was high school. I moved from North Dakota to Wisconsin in high school. So I was the new kid and kind of had this new perspective of viewing like the in group, the out group. These guys are the bullies and the jocks and, that kind of stuff. I had a different perspective. And I remember every day hearing the same three names get called to the office every day. And around that time, I was thinking, I know those guys because I've labeled them as the bullies. Like, and I was shrimpy, like super shrimpy, like 80 pounds in 10th grade. Like, I wasn't going to mess with these guys. And I just knew that they didn't have folks picking them up. They weren't in extracurricular activities, that this wasn't necessarily like their fault. And I just had this kind of yearning to want to learn how to help these guys. And so that's what got me involved in school. I took psychology courses in high school and then just transferred to University of Minnesota because it was top 5 college in that. Also got an undergrad degree in child psychology. And then for my master's, I switched over to social work because I didn't want to diagnose people. I wanted to help people get better. And so that was that change there.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So fast forward, you stumbled through a low-paying, thankless job for almost a decade, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. Man, it's such a fundamental light bulb moment for so many people in the real estate and beyond. I mean, what a service Robert Kiyosaki's done to the entrepreneurial world. But did you just stumble across that in your kind of seeker moment where you were looking for, some way to generate extra income?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, my friend's wife challenged me to figure out
Right.
how to quit complaining about money.
Yeah. Take
And I
accountability.
remember, I still remember it. I was in my friend's kitchen making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich while they're making plans for Costa Rica, just feeling like completely ripped off. But it's that jealousy comes from feeling trapped, like you can't change your future. And that's what I felt like. And so this was a real blessing that she pointed this out, in lots of cuss words. But so I just asked people, it was probably the fourth or fifth person I asked, because this isn't something that everyone knows, right? Not everyone knows how to make passive income.
Yeah.
It's become more prevalent now, I think, post COVID and with the, like creator, atmosphere that we're in now,
Hmm.
uh, to do that. But that's still active income. I mean, back in 2013, when I bought my duplex, passive income was real estate. And so I asked 4 or 5 people, and finally someone said, I don't know. I've heard about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I went to the library, Minneapolis Downtown Public Library. I took the bus there and checked out the Purple Book to change my life. And I got to meet Robert Kiyosaki, and I told him that, the book changed my life. I was a social worker, and classic Kiyosaki, he said, it's just a book about accounting, man. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. But just like some of the other classics, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, and those kind of
Yeah.
things, it really is. I certainly came into real estate and business second half of my life, almost really. I mean, just went down a path of go to high school, get good grades, get in university, get a degree, get a job, feed the 401k, hope you save up enough to coast into however long of life you have left. Yeah. And all of that. And so that is, it's ingrained, and I don't know that it's a conscious molding of society, but the education system is certainly founded upon farming out or generating workers, right? People that can go and fill up factories and be employees in other people's businesses. And I think I have a nephew who's a senior in high school, and he's actually last year and this year taken a class on entrepreneurship, which is just crazy for me. There was no classes like that. I mean, you could take business as a class as well as a major, but it really was not too entrepreneurial focused. And so, yeah, for me, also a very similar light bulb moment. Rich Dad Poor Dad, just organizing society in such a way that there are people that work and trade their time for money. There are people that form a business and still trade their time for money, and then there are these that learn how to manage capital and assets and invest. Yeah, it is in a lot of times a light bulb moment if you don't either grow up in that environment or get exposed to it in some other way. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I have 2 daughters that we love dearly, and they're both going down the path of the poor dad, and just they don't want to listen to their dad or their mother in any way at this age. So there's, they're going to find their own way. But it is interesting that so many people, I won't say get trapped, but just go down the path of, and it's almost a path of least resistance or an easy path, right? I mean, you can go and interview and get jobs and work, and you get time off and you get some benefits, and it makes a lot of the more difficult decisions. How am I going to get health care? How am I going to invest and do all these things? It puts a lot of those on autopilot. And I think it does just become a path of least resistance for a lot of people.
Chris,
I think you're right on the money. In fact, I was just talking with someone yesterday about this. The payment for being an entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
The payment is constant, in your face, intense personal development, social isolation, no one knows what the heck you do,
Yeah.
right? Except for like other mastermind groups and people around the world. It's hard to like meet someone next door
Mm.
who understands like, oh, okay, like you're your own boss. It must be nice. It's like
Mm.
some days,
Yeah.
there are some really nice pros to being an employee, and so I don't blame people for doing that. And the child psychology in me, Mike, wants to assure you that, hey, your daughters are going to be fine because kids inherently don't listen to their parents anyway. They just become their parents. And so, like, the best parenting advice ever is to just like be the best you can
Sure,
be.
be a role model. Yeah, and that's I
That's
don't
Yeah.
right.
I don't try to force any lessons, and I'm always surprised down the road when they repeat something and they're like, you said this at one time, and I'm like, oh wow, that actually a lot of times I don't even remember what I said, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember you said this, and I'm like, I sound like a wise old man.
Yeah, like a sage.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes.
great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Ligia, what were you going to say? I'm sorry to cut you off earlier.
No problem. I was. It's fascinating to me that in your past, right? You had a moment, a divine moment where you could choose, right? You had that moment where you saw a need, you saw a problem, and you decided to not be a victim and not be a complainer,
Mhm.
but to find a solution for it. And that totally changed the trajectory of your life, and that's very fascinating to me because I think there are so many people that stay in their universe, small universe, and complain, but they won't do anything to change it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the entrepreneurial spirit. And now I'm fascinating to hear more about your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe
What's
let's shift
interesting?
gears a little bit and get into now you've proven out the model and you're giving back in a couple of different ways. It sounds like how are you sharing your wealth metaphorically?
Yeah. Well, my wealth is in knowledge and in who I am and the gifts and talents that I can distribute to others and hopefully be a spark, for others. And you're right on the money, Ligia, about that. Like it was a kind of that moment when that fork in the road. And now that I've been removed from that a little bit, I've realized that there's kind of three phases to being in the helping service industry, whether that be doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists, all that kind of stuff. There's phase one, which is, just send me to your maximum security prison. I'm going to do yoga with hardened criminals. And, oh, you're going to pay me $2.50 an hour. Great. You don't have to, but I'll take it. The like, the pure heart, the reason why you got into it. And then usually you go to phase two because you see your friends doing other things, or you have a family, or you don't want to live in a friend's basement. And that's phase two, which is you become then the manager of other people who
Mm.
come in and are newbies. So you're no longer doing the job that you signed up to be, that you grew up your entire life wanting to do. You're managing those people, and you probably have two or three screens with spreadsheets and budgets and all that kind of stuff. So you're managing people who are doing the job that you love, but you can get a car that doesn't break down. That's kind of the payoff. And then I was about to go to step three. And step three is I either leave entirely and go to for profit to make money to buy a house, or I stay there and become incredibly jaded and hurtful to my colleagues, to my clients, and to the community. And a lot of people choose that because you get paid a little bit more. You start to get paid a living wage, but you're so grumpy and you're so hostile towards these golden handcuffs that you might as well just take a chance trying something else. And so I found that out with talking to other people. And so my passion with my real estate company and sharing that world with other people through, like trainings or seminars or digital courses or We're looking to do some syndications here at the end of the year. Doing that kind of stuff and sharing the wealth like financially is so that people can avoid moving from phase 2 to phase 3. They can avoid that kind of like psychological torment. I don't quite know what the word is, but I want to keep people in their job that's their passion, knowing that they're not going to get paid full price for it or what they should. Let's get you paid over here with some passive income through syndications, through active, whatever you want to do, so that you can have a livable wage and do what you want to do while also staying in a job that fills up your purpose and your heart.
Yeah, it's a beautiful philosophy, and it's worked so well for you. It seems like, and I know so many other people that that have done that. Right, like you said earlier, there's nothing wrong with a W-2 working for someone. It fulfills so many needs that we have, and you can feel incredibly rewarded. It's when you get beholden to that job, or when you get a little bit locked in, that you don't have any degrees of flexibility to, even if you wanted to take a trip to Costa Rica or whatever, right? I can't take off because my time is money, and I don't have enough of it. Or I'm interested to look for another job, but I can't even take a time to go on an interview, or God forbid I get a little bit of a pay cut, then I'm really in a hole. And so, having that extra income that is, as passive as it gets. It's not nothing is really truly passive, but there are certainly more passive types of income, and a lot of that is centered on real estate and a few different types of business ownership. But yeah, it's a great way to be able to not get jaded, as you say, in your role, and still be able to live a fulfilling life, and also give back the best of yourself. Because when you're in that phase 3, as you called it, and you're grumpy and angry, you're not serving the community that you're there to serve, typically, I would imagine, anyway. So it's really, really great formula. How has that been adopted? And are you? Am I correct? Your intent, at least, is to focus on similar types of service workers. I'm sure you're open to anybody, but is that kind of who you court a little bit and try to serve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I speak the language, right? I know what it's like to be doing the good work, the community's good work, and feeling jealous, feeling ripped off, feeling like you're not getting your fair shake. And so that's kind of where my heart goes out,
Mm-hmm.
is to helping people like that. It's not exactly the therapist, the nurse isn't exactly like who most syndicators are targeting with their marketing, but I don't really care. I guess I've kind of taken a step back and realized, like, what do I really want out of life? Like, what's enough for me?
Yeah.
And I am really close to having enough financially, to the point where I'm blessed to be able to work on projects that really kind of fill me up and give me purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to put time and effort into something, because I do something like all out, um, and want it to be really good, then I want it to be something where I feel like it's pushing the needle for myself and for others. And, so I give talks to people at, therapy conventions about creating wealth on a social work wage. And they think I'm just like some sort of god because have a portfolio of, like 5 houses, so they're like, how did you do that? And, so it's really kind of fun for me to show people that they can. And, part of this journey too, for me, is realizing more about myself. And I'm excited for others to learn about themselves too. In fact, I'm having dinner later with a guy who I've been mentoring for about a year, and he is getting ready to do his first deal. He's flipping a house, and just to see how he looks at things differently now, his creativity is through the roof. He's a geologist who's suddenly realizing he loves talking to motivated sellers of all things. And I realized through this is that my personality in therapy, I'm pretty good at like creating rapport with people and motivating people to do stuff. If you think about that on an entrepreneur angle, I am, like, in a disc test, the quintessential visionary or salesperson. I've just been hiding behind a W-2 job forever. And so I also get to scratch this itch that I've had for a long time that I didn't know was available to me. And so that's part of the spark that I want to give to other people as well.
Love that. Yeah, that's a very interesting take on the whole real estate business model, because there are so many hats you can wear, right? You can wear them all, but you can certainly lean into the ones that really suit your personality. And yeah, we have a few different real estate businesses, and we've worked in them and on them, and all these kind of things, and we both know where we fit and where we thrive in which elements. And thankfully for us, Lygia and I, we complement each other very, very well in both ways, and complementing one
Oh,
another.
adorable, you guys. Adorable.
But we do, in a working relationship, we do kind of bring different elements into our businesses, which has helped us as a couple work in that way. But yeah, being able to explore different aspects of things that most people really don't get. I had the fortune of working for some great tech companies, working a broad range of roles in different leadership positions across different disciplines, and so and also some great education. And so I loved my career and all that it brought, but it did afford me a great opportunity to discover what elements of my personality make me shine and help me be more resourceful, and which other elements should I help and get teammates and different things. And so in a lot of real estate ventures, you can certainly play around with that and find good partners and other aspects to help you grow even faster. It's really, really good. But yeah, I'm interested. So it's not an easy thing a lot of times to build up passive income through real estate, right? I mean, it's especially if you go down the single family rentals, flips, short-term rentals. It takes a bit of discipline and patience, and you stack up some income. But it sounds like the people you work with are, for the most part, eager to jump into it and see it as a viable path to help generate some wealth. Have you seen good success out of people that you've worked with, and that's rewarding in and of itself?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't have any sort of any like mentorship business with real estate.
Yeah.
I sell digital courses to people who want to kind of learn how to do
Okay.
it. But with mentorship, just hey, let's get together for dinner or coffee or
Mhm.
beer or whatever. And like if you've got that grit, boy, you're gonna get my time, right? And I think we all feel that, those people that we feel connected to, because they just want to go out there and learn it,
Yeah.
which is pretty fun. And you do learn about different people, like this guy I told you, the geologist, who loves talking to motivated sellers. I hate talking to motivated sellers. Like, I don't like that at all. I also learned that I do not like calling banks. I sold banknotes for like a year or two. I don't like doing that because I don't like pretending like I'm a suit wearer. Like, not, I didn't come out of the womb as like boss baby. I just felt like I was playing a role.
Uh-huh.
And I really love syndication because you can be you and surround yourself with other people who can be them. Now, there's a discipline there too, because we tend to, as people, find people that we belong with who are
Mhm.
like us. When in syndication, it's pieces of the puzzle. You're going to need to find 3 or 4 other people who are very different than you. Where I tend to be the person who finds deals. I like to, talk to everybody. So I love investor relations. I love doing presentations and that kind of stuff. I love going to a market and meeting with all the brokers, right? But when it comes to due diligence, no. Like my partners do that. They've got their spreadsheets. They've got their 168-point checklist.
Yeah.
At that point, my job is to like keep things light and like get sandwiches. Like I'm not good with details at all.
Yeah.
And I understand that and need to do my role. And I think that's what's so great about getting to that next level of real
Mhm.
estate is that you can be you and surround yourself with other people, just like you guys have in your marriage with that really cute look that you had.
Yeah, we do it in the syndication space as well, and it's a perfect example that you call out. I mean, there are, like I said, many many hats, and it's good to try them all and be versed in them across. But that's exactly why you build a team, so that other people are much better at certain things than I am, and in doing those kind of things.
Exactly. If you'd have told me even 3 years ago that I enjoy, let alone want to get better at raising capital, I would have thought you were crazy, because I still had that core belief, that like salespeople are shysters. I'm trying to somehow trick you into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the same techniques we use in therapy, solution focused, theory. Where do you want to go? Tell me about your hopes and dreams. And then using motivational interviewing, techniques. It's the same way that we help people get over imposter syndrome, is the same way we help people figure out their perfect investment. And it really is awesome to be able to build your skills and see that work in a way that you have agency over.
Yeah, I love that.
What do you see are the key factors that make successful people being successful?
Yeah, you touched on one a minute ago. We have several of our guests that come on talk about grit, and we also coach others. And yeah, sometimes you just know, right? You see someone come through the door, they are raring to go, they're knocking down any obstacles, they're not the victim, as you talked about earlier, and they have this grit, and you just know, okay, rock star, they're going to do it. But yeah, are there you see other characteristics that people can lean into that help drive success?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where do I begin with this? I mean, my new adventure here called Infinite Skies is doing like executive therapy for entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
because what I found, you know, with doing some capital raising is that a lot of people still have hurts, wounds, scars. They're still running from things from the past. And that was surprising to me. And then I realized that I really have a place here where I can help people, you know, kind of dissect or investigate some of the messages they got growing up, some of the core beliefs that have now become kind of unfettered, unquestioned truths of the world, that aren't true at all. If you were to take a third party observation. So absolutely. I mean, I've got a ton of them like that. We discussed imposter syndrome, which is basically the curse of the talented and gifted. I mean, if you're at home and your weekend consists of going to a Marvel movie and then going to Costco to see what samples they have, you don't have imposter syndrome. I mean, this is like psychological facts here. So
Yeah.
you have imposter syndrome when you grow. It's an embarrassment of who you used to be. So put another way, it's being pleased that you're not where you used to be. I think we can all think about embarrassing things we said or did or whatever, especially when we were younger. We're not that person. That's why we get embarrassed by them. That's what imposter syndrome is. And I think here for all the entrepreneurs looking for actionable tips out there, with the onset of social media and so many more creators and just endless streaming of scrolling, I mean to say, that social comparison is so huge. There's always someone next up on that level. I'm looking to be, with real estate where you guys are. You are probably looking to be, let's say, where Robert Kiyosaki is. He's looking to be where Ed Griffin is, where he doesn't even deal in dollars, he just deals in gold and assets and stuff, and maybe Ed Griffin wants to be Antonio Banderas, so there's always something. And so I think it's just really, really important for everyone, especially entrepreneurs, to figure out what's enough. Like, what do you want in this world where you can say, that's good, that's good enough, and then work towards that. Because we all can point to a time in our lives when we were living in a friend's basement or eating ramen noodles or didn't have a car or whatever it was. That's why that story is relatable, because we've all been there. And as we become more successful, our lifestyle expectations become greater. Also, we get to be in different rooms. You guys do coaching. So those people are suddenly now in a room with you, super stoked to be there. Oh, I don't belong here. And what you are hoping is that they will succeed you guys and go into the next room. And so there's just imposter syndrome everywhere. And so I think what we do is we just define what's enough. And then we go back to when we're 10, 11 years old. Who are the people who were important in our lives? What messages did they tell us? Which ones can we let go of? And which ones can we embrace?
Yeah, I like that. So many great takeaways in there. I also have embraced many years ago this word you use several times, enough. I think it's not a word that gets ingrained in us in this consumer society and social comparisons and those kind of things. But yeah, it sounds like your work is really nice in that you start with the end in mind and trying to define what is a fulfilling life for someone and what is enough. And we struggle with this, like this balance of having enough and being full of gratitude for what we have, but also chasing a little bit more. And that's not necessarily in a materialistic way, although some of that comes with it, but it's really more in, to your point, growth and pushing outside of the comfort zone and developing yourself as a person and leaning into core values and things like that. I recently read a book just last month called Mastery by I think George Leonard is the author. And he comes from an Aikido discipline. Like, he's a multiple degree black belt, and he's written a couple books on Aikido. But he wrote this book on mastery, and he uses sport as a metaphor throughout. But it very much parallels what you're talking about in this comfort discomfort area. And he makes a very interesting point that when you're on the path to mastery, which is a path, by the way, and not a destination. It's really about just being on a path and developing for the sake of it. But he makes this point that anytime we try to do something to grow, you have to become comfortable with looking foolish, right? So you have to, when you pick up a tennis racket, you frame the ball, you hit it out of the court. Right? You just, it's inherent in the growth process that you're going to look foolish, or at least you need to accept the fact that you may look foolish, and it's okay. And that's, this whole concept of imposter syndrome and fake it till you make it and these kind of things, I really, they put a distaste in my mouth just because of the connotation that these words or phrases bring about, that somehow I'm faking something. I'm not faking anything. I'm trying. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm succeeding and failing. And so I try to look at it more as programming. Like I'm programming my hardware to do something different, and there's going to be bugs and I'm going to have to unprogram other aspects that are kind of hardwired in there and stumble and fumble and do these things. And which is something I've had to come to terms with actually as I've aged, because I early as a youngster had fear of failure, and I'm going to disappoint my friends and my family, and they're going to think, they have this image of me, and if I don't do something perfectly, then, the bubble's going to pop or whatever. And so I have had a big fear of failure. And I think entrepreneurship has helped modify that in many ways, because if you're not failing, you're really not testing, and you're not getting that feedback, and you're not adjusting your course and doing those types of things. And so it's been a journey, but yeah, I love all those traits that you bring up and concepts. What about, I like this infinite skies. Maybe we pivot to that just a little bit. Tell us a bit more about what the mission is there, and how you're looking to help and transform.
Yeah, the mission there is to help entrepreneurs burn bright and not burn out. And so I run into so many people now that I'm, embrace the entrepreneur in me. So many people that are running, go, go, go. And there's a bunch of hot topics right now. People wanting flow state, people wanting, like what you're saying, constant, like perpetual growth. The concept that failure is our job as entrepreneurs. But along with that, we're also humans with emotions, with connections, with genealogy, and we need to embrace that. And so everything we do is to get people to embrace who they are at their authentic core. And what we found with the handful of people we've worked with, we're still in like beta testing mode with groups and individuals here, is people are earning more, people are collaborating with other people more, people are finding like romantic partners, which we didn't think of. But stress levels low, creativity's up, flow state's up, all this kind of stuff because people are learning to stop and assess what they're really going for. You mentioned before, like just a fear of failure growing up. And that's such a key one. I'm so glad that you were open and vulnerable enough to talk about some of that growing up because we get a lot of these things growing up. I certainly had a fear of failure. If I got a B on a test, holy smokes, I better hide that report card. And I'm really good at math, which is like a weird thing. I can do like any math thing in my head. And so I got a C in math in 8th grade because I didn't turn any of my homework. I had to show my work and I couldn't tell my teacher how to do it. We would do like, what's 564 times 18, and I would just tell her the answer. And I still don't know how I do that other than just the number appears in my head. But I got a C. So I hid that report card, and not because I was bad at math, but because I got a letter grade assigned to it. And so that stunted my growth in certain ways because I was afraid of failing. And so we go other ways. We take the easier route on other things. So a lot of times people will start businesses because their brother beat them up and they want to get back at their brother, or because mom and dad wouldn't let them do stuff, or because Angie Thomas said they're not going to go to the 7th grade dance with them. And so now they're going to create 50,000 LinkedIn followers so that they never get rejected again. This stuff sounds silly, but we all have this inside of us, myself included. Angie Thomas, you missed out on a keeper.
Yeah,
but anyways,
there's a story there. It was a very specific name that came out.
But so what I found is that people are running from these kinds of things all the time. Just last night, I was meeting with a client whose superpower in business is to forget about what everyone is saying and do the opposite. But he feels like he has a tough time socializing because he has this like need to fit in. So he feels opposite there and it's a hurt, but opposite here is a gain. So of course, what did he do throughout his life? Made a ton of money with businesses.
Yeah.
You fast forward 40 years later, I still feel pretty lonely. And so we all do things the best that we know how, and a lot of people have great success at it, but don't feel fully actualized in their lives. And that's what I want to help people do, because I don't want this guy to be like, well, the next business is going to make me feel good. No, the next business is going to make me feel good. No, it's actually like playing bridge with his neighbor, and that's going to make him feel fulfilled.
Interesting. Yeah, the whole psychology. I mean, I'm fascinated by it as well. I didn't major in it in university, but I have since then just kind of been a personal development and a little bit of a psychology junkie. It really is fascinating, the complexities that don't have to be so complex, but that do originate just from the moment we come out of the womb, and likely even before, that just manifest themselves as we go. And yeah, a lot of times we're not conscious of these patterns and beliefs and systems that are driving us in our adult lives and older adult lives, and certainly has profound impacts, as you well know, I'm sure, in the entrepreneurial world. We try to weave a little bit of that into our coaching programs as well, because when we made the switch from W-2 employees into entrepreneurship, ours was a very harsh and sudden. Like we both found ourselves out of a job. We decided to get into and start our own business, and so it wasn't quite a burn the boats, but we went all in on that, and we found coaches and mentors. But most of the coaches and mentors we found were around the hard skills of running a business. Here are the process steps. Here are the accounting principles, the business process engineering, flow charts, all that kind of stuff. There wasn't offered as part of our coaches and mentors packages softer skills or the psychological tips and habits to build and stuff. And so we do try to put a bit of that into our program when people come through, just because that's what we yearn for. I mean, honestly, running a business is not, I mean, it's hard, but it's not that hard once you know the process, right? You can learn the bits and pieces of whatever business or real estate or investment you try to go into, but it's these limiting beliefs and self-sabotage and unhelpful programming that we've got that really hold us back or push us down a path that we don't necessarily want to go. And that's really where the juice is in terms of amplifying your success and getting where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like everything needs to be perfect before I move forward. No, I need to know all the answers before I take a step. Like, no, you're not going to go anywhere. Entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development journey you can ever go on. It's like reading all the books in the library, except instead of reading it, it's like feeling it, sometimes all at once and never when you want it. Right. And no one ever wants to learn those lessons, but everyone's happy to tell you those lessons when they're done.
Yeah.
So it's, I really appreciate that you guys are adding that in there, because it's so important, because you could teach hard skills and learn this, but it gets so much easier when you aren't fighting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good way to put it. I like that.
And I think the work that you're doing is so valuable for entrepreneurs. I reflected a little bit on fear of failure, for instance. Recently, in the recent years, I've heard this really healthy concept that there is no such thing as failure. There is only learning and growing opportunity. There's no such thing as failure. And when I heard that, it's like, why nobody has told me this before? Or why did I not know that? And just to your point, we are constantly growing, constantly developing, and we always have to audit our belief system, even our money story, even our, what it means to grow, what it means to, in all these things, we're constantly learning and growing. And it's a wonderful work that you're doing. But I have a question for you. How do you stay as a person entrepreneurial fit in that way? Like what are some mentors that you have in your life? What are some people that influence you in a good way in your growth?
Well, first of all, I just say, do what I say, not what I do. Next question. No, but this is a valid, because like I fall into traps just like everybody else. Knowing that there's no such thing as failure is different than performing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as failure, right? I think we all know that, and we all have our baggage from the past, and we move forward. And I'm just like everyone else, where I go in waves. Sometimes I'm great
Mm-hmm.
at taking care of myself and really preparing my mind and body and spirit for action. Other times, not so much. I have to admit that this week has been a little bit of an off week, but that's just because my birthday is coming up tomorrow, and my mom made me a chocolate cake with chocolate frosting, and I've been like slowly nibbling bites off of it, even though it like makes me tired. I'm like, oh, it's just, oh, she knows exactly what to do. She's like,
Yes.
she even added chocolate chips to it for you, buddy. And I was like, oh, and it's so good. I had to give some to all the neighbors, as an excuse to not eat them. But I've been focusing a lot lately on um, making myself whole and not sacrificing, even though I want to go really, really fast. And I found that I feel like I'm a part of the entrepreneur like alliance of the world now, because I go to conferences and I'm like, I want to go fast. And someone else is like, I want to go fast too. And I'm like, yes, brother, we all want to go fast, and we all have this tremendous drive and ambition. And it's for good reason, right? We want to make a huge impact, but we can burn ourselves out really quickly. By making sacrifices in our life, whether it's with health or food or sleep, or even worse, with family, with parenting, with volunteering, with all the things that we do in our lives that make us feel whole. So I've actually been doing a lot of reflection on this lately, Ligia, because I was on a bike camping trip with my daughter, who just started second grade. And so we went camping and biking for a few days, and I looked over at my phone. I mean, it was 1:55 in the morning, and I hadn't slept yet, and it was a beautiful starry night, crickets out, no humidity. I'm, snug as a bug in a sleeping bag, full of hot dogs and marshmallows. I should have been sleeping, but what I was thinking of was our top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel marketing strategy. And I was like, this isn't right. Like
Yeah.
this isn't fair to my daughter who's 7. She deserves to have a dad in the morning.
Hmm.
And it hit me. It's hitting me now, I guess. So I did some reflecting on that, and so I've got some new things that I'm doing. A lot of them are like based on self-talk, affirmation, things like that. So just in the morning, waking up first 2-3 minutes before I do anything, I'm still in my bed. I just say a couple sentences to myself, like, I'm making bold decisions today. My creativity is going to shine today. Like, I'm going to do the very best I can today. And then during the day, I have to check out from screens. I would keep going, keep going. I fell into that trap, even though I knew I wouldn't, or I shouldn't. I still fell into the trap of, oh, one more hour, one more email, one more this. So I have to leave the house for an hour. I've got a dog, so that helps. We take a walk through the woods or ride my bike or something. Have to do that. Then I was getting away from like my little gratitude routine that I do. And I had created a gratitude routine that was like extensive, right? Because which psychologist therapist doesn't want to push more gratitude, but it can become a to-do list. And so I really pared everything down to what I call a to-be list, stuff that I do to be me. And so it's, you know, gratitude in the morning, moving my body, 1 hour of deep work a day, because things come up. And I don't want to sacrifice the things that are important. And it really hit me because I talked to so many people. The reason I started Infinite Skies um, counseling is because I would talk to people and they would say, okay, you're going to make all these investments and you're going to invest 200 grand or whatever. And we're talking about it. What are you going to do with the money? Oh, I want to hang out with my family. Okay. But you're working 70 hours a week. I've got an idea. Let's just cut out the middleman and you've got what you want. But there's different layers there, and life's more complex than that. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to get back to simplifying right now. So you hit me with a question at just the right time. And I got back to it. I realized that for 7 years, I'd written an email to my daughter every morning. And then I got away from that habit, and that really hurt. So getting back to like the simple things.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your vulnerability and honesty, because I think if we are honest, our journey is not a perfect line. I mean, we all have ups and downs, and we all experience these things, and we have to remind ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? and get back on track.
Yeah, have the grace to know that, okay, I wander. It's just like meditation, as they practice, right? The mind's going to wander, know what's going to happen, and then just bring it back once you become aware. Or same with these practices. I try to do a very simple gratitude practice in the evening as well. Think of 3 things throughout the day that I've been super grateful for, and those types of things really help drift off to a nice peaceful sleep. Sometimes the mind gets crazy active, which is my mind. My mind lights up at night for some reason. Just I'll hit the pillow and start thinking like you did about all the things I can and need and should and want to do and all that. But
Hey Mike, do you keep like a notebook by your bedstand?
I do. Yeah, I have. I don't know how long I've been doing it. It's only this year I picked up. So Lidge and I read a great business book called The Gap and the Gain.
Oh yeah, great one.
Yeah, and so in a nutshell, it's all about perspective shift, right? Instead of spending all of your time measuring your gap to where you want to be, which is some ideal that you may never attain, it's take time to look back and appreciate the fact that, hey, I did start a business from nothing. And, I did do, this, or I did exercise today, or those kind of things. And so as a part of that, I think the author, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, I think he mentioned that he has a practice. And so I adapted some of that, and I try to do 3 wins for my day. Like, what were 3 wins that I'm taking away? And then I also put in 3 elements of gratitude. So yeah, I have a journal by the bed. I probably do it 90% of the time. I don't do it every night, but most nights I'm pretty good about doing it. So yeah, it's really been helpful.
The other nights, Lee just said you don't even come home, right?
Yeah, I'm out all night just patting around. Yeah.
Here's one thing to add, if I dare, that's been helpful for me, because if you keep this for a long time, you'll want to look back on it. I write something funny that happened that day.
Okay.
And it kind of helps me get in a lighter mood.
Yeah.
And then when you go back, like I've got a gratitude journal that's like 11 years old. You go back, I'm like, oh, that was funny. Oh yeah, cinnamon toast crunch is good. That's what I read the other day. Like the silliest things that you find in there. And it's just kind of fun. It reminds you that life is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I like that. I'll definitely consider trying to keep that going, because we have a little levity in our day, which is nice. Let's stay on the theme of gratitude. So we like to wrap up our podcasts with gratitude. So we're certainly grateful that you came and spent some time and shared some of your experience and wisdom with us. But who's someone or someones that you'd like to give a shout out to that's been helpful along your way?
Oh, I like to give shout outs along the way. That's good. The first person that popped into my mind was Ken McElroy, famous real estate syndicator. I've read a ton of his books. And I got to buy him a tequila a few months ago when I ran into him at a conference and was telling him about how I read ABCs of Real Estate Investing.
Yeah.
And that got me on my journey, and how I had printed out all his templates and stole them and used them. And he was just beaming ear to ear. And then I said, "Can I buy you a shot?" And he said, "Sure." And it was like the most expensive thing I've ever purchased in my life. So shout out Ken McElroy. He's the man. He's so warm, so giving, so nice.
Yeah, I echo that. Like that. All right, good.
I've read in your bio that your mission is to help millions essential workers to reach passive income. We want to salute you for that. And if the listeners are inspired and they want to reach out to you, what is the best way to find you?
Yeah, well, probably on LinkedIn. You can find my name, Chris Schwagerl, which is on there. I don't know how this is working. LinkedIn is a great place where I like to put a lot of stuff about entrepreneurship, leadership. I write a lot about like mental health. Today I wrote about this constant battle that we have about ambition and shutting off, right? How do we turn on and turn off? Like, that's always tough. Otherwise, you can visit my website, chrisconnects.co. That website is geared towards people who want to get involved in real estate investing. So I'm happy to help really anyone, really with any sort of mental health or financial health development, because I really do believe that those two things go hand in hand.
Love that. Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes as well, so anybody listening can go grab your website link or handles for LinkedIn. And yeah, you're doing some great work. Really appreciate the attitude and the mindset that's taken you along your journey from really an altruistic role in social work into how do you bolster that, and now continuing to give back to different communities. So applaud you for that. And again, thanks for coming on the show, Chris. Really appreciate it. All the best in your ventures. If we can help you in any way through us personally or the community of the podcast, let us know. And let's stay in touch, man.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you for reaching out. This was really a pleasure. I love talking about this, and I love how self-aware you guys are, and I love how you work together, and I just love this community that you're building. It's awesome. So absolutely call on me for anything you need. I'm happy to help. Same with your listeners.
All right. Thanks so much.
And happy birthday.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thanks so
Enjoy a
much. Yeah,
wonderful
I've got hungry doing this podcast. I think I need
Go
to
have
go.
some cake. Yeah, moms
I
are
keep
great
the
for that,
fork.
right?
Yeah, I keep the fork right in there, so I just go by and get
Yeah,
one
just
fork
open
full.
the dome, grab the fork. Yeah, I hear you. I've been down the path. Good stuff. All right, man.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.